Hey, thanks for coming. Today we're going to do a practice that's a little bit different. So we're going to be utilizing a chair for a number of our stretches today. And I think you'll be surprised at just how deep a stretch and how challenging it can be to work with a chair. So if you've never done it before, you're going to need a chair, obviously. And today we'll probably utilize a block or two and a yoga strap. So if you can gather those things for yourself and meet me back here, and then we'll get started. So we'll start out just with some simple straight ahead warm-up kind of things just to kind of get ourselves going. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of pec stretching with a forearm on the wall. So take yourself over to the wall. So you can stand so that your left hip is closest to the wall and your forearm's going straight up and your palm is flat on the wall. Turn your chest perpendicular to your arm on the wall. And then start to turn your feet like you're standing on a lazy Susan. You turn your feet away. Try to maintain your mountain pose posture. So it'll be very tempting as you turn to drop your chin and just let your head kind of drop. But as you stand tall, the head of the arm bone closest to the wall pulls back, the shoulder blade draws in towards your spine, and you just turn yourself. You also might be tempted to make this into a back bend and jut the ribs up a little bit. See if you can pull the sternum down a little bit of an abdominal crunch here as you're turning and getting a nice stretch in the pectoral muscles. If you want to bring the other arm up into cactus and pull that arm bone back, you can really get a little bit of a deeper opening for the chest. Again, try to keep a little bit more stability here so the rib cage is more centered in the body. And you try that. And then of course you release it. You go to the other side. Because the way my room is configured here, I have to kind of do the best I can. So I'm going to go the other way. I've got a perpendicular wall here. So other elbow on the wall. Find your way into your mountain pose stance. And then just turn your feet. Make sure you're not kind of walking your feet away from the wall. You want to try to have your spine and your legs as you're much maintaining mountain pose as you can as you turn away from the wall. Again, the head of the arm bone that's closest to the wall pulls back, shoulder blade in toward the spine. And then again, rather than dropping the head or letting the rib cage lift up, pull down in the sternum and the lower ribs, shoulder heads back. And maybe the other arm comes out into a cactus position and you get a little deeper opening there. All right, and then once you release that, we might even try the door frame version of this if you have room. So you can lean into your door frame, put your forearms on the molding on the inside of the door, and then you stand with your toes just shy of the threshold and just let your body come forward. So be careful not to let your hips jut forward too much. You don't want too deep a back bend there, but you also don't want to leave your behind in the opposite room. So remember to try to maintain mountain pose so your thighs and your torso are fairly in line with one another as you lean forward and get a little deeper pectoral stretch here, right? Okay, and then we'll release that. Then we'll take ourselves over to the wall and do some of the things that we would normally do. So we'll do a frisking pose. You can take your fingertips up. For some of you, you'll take your fingertips up a little bit higher. I happen to have this angled wall situation, so my hands will go just right up to the crease of the wall there. Step your feet back until your feet are approximately right under the hips. Move your sit bones back. Try to keep the shoulder heads lifted. Rotate the elbows and the triceps to look down toward the floor. And then give yourself a reach back through your sitting bones. So you try to have as much of a line of energy as you can from your tailbone through the crown of your head. So rather than letting the head drop, right, or sinking down into the spine, there's a sense of length as you conduct energy through the length of the spine. All right, now if you want to make that easier on yourself, take your hands up a little higher. Don't go down as far on the wall with the hands, right? So you got that option too. Okay, so let's do the karate chop pose. So you'll stand once again at the wall. You'll take one hand back behind you and make sure your hand is a little bit lower than the height of the shoulder. Press the edge of the hand into the wall. And then just make your body about, maybe a foot or so away from the wall. If it's uncomfortable, because you've had a shoulder injury, then step further away from the wall if you prefer. You just don't want to be leaning right against the wall as you're doing this exercise. So standing about a foot away from the wall, shoulders back, press the edge of the hand into the wall and just get a little deeper into that pec opening. You'll feel the stretch move all the way down the inseam of the arm. You can feel it in my bicep, tricep. A lot of good stuff going on there. All right, and then we'll release that. And let's try the other side. So again, you're going to take the hand palm up, press the edge of the hand into the wall, make sure your body is maybe a foot or so away from the wall, and then as you press your hand into the wall, turn your torso away. Again, always maintaining a sense of mountain pose in the height of the spine. Pulling in and up in the belly, pulling down in the sternum. Great. And then releasing the pose. Okay, so coming back to your mat, we're just going to move the arms. Inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, release the arms down. Inhale, arms up. Take a hold of your right wrist. Tip yourself over to your left. So give yourself a nice pull on your wrist as you tip. Inhale to center. Take a hold of the left wrist. Pull in and up in the lower belly, hug the midline with the feet a little bit so you keep some and maintain some stability in your core, and then tip yourself over to the right. And back up to center. Great, and release the arms. So let's take the arms out into cactus position. I know we've done a number of variations of this on the wall here, but now just standing on your mat, pull the elbows back, lean your torso forward a little bit. So a lot of the weight comes into the ball of your foot and your toes. And then lean the weight back in the heels, bring your forearms forward. So you have these choice, either hands together and just try to pull the elbows in close to one another. If you have eagle position in your repertoire, cross the right elbow over the left, intertwine your arms, drop your chin for a moment. And just breathe. Feel into whatever stretch you may get in the back of the neck, your traps. And then untangle the arms. Arms back out into cactus. Lean forward. Pull the belly in and up as you pull your shoulder blades towards your spine, opening up through the chest. Try to tip the hands back. So from the side, you can see this. I'm not letting my hands come forward like this. I'm trying to keep the elbows down and pull the hands back as I pull my chest forward, right? Okay, then bring your arms forward again. And again, either hands together and try to pull the elbows to touch, or eagle position, left elbow over the right, intertwine the arms, drop your chin. And just breathe with whatever stretch you get right there. All right, back to center, unravel your arms. Okay, get the shoulders are getting pretty good and warmed up. Let's warm up the legs a little bit. So bend your knees, coming into a skier's position. And with all the weight in the hands, move the sit bones back as much as you can. So there's a lot of weight in the heels. And then pull the abdomen in and up a little bit so you feel the belly lift, you feel the glutes lift a little bit. And then take your hands out in front of you parallel to the floor. So coming into kind of a chair pose position here, strong in the abdomen. All right, and then we'll just move this thing. So you're just gonna swing your arms forward and back. Try to keep the sit bones back as you're just kind of bouncing. All right, and then take the arms back out in front of you. Sitting bones way back there. And hands to your knees. Inhale, come on up to standing, arms up and overhead. Bring your palms together and slide your hands to your heart center. Okay, great. So we're going to do a little bit of work with the chair now. So if you'll grab a chair for yourself, bring it over and set it at the top of your mat. Now this chair, you're going to either work with the front of the chair where the seat is, which is probably a little bit more challenging for the hamstrings for the poses we're about to do. If your hamstrings are on the tighter side, turn your chair around so your hands can be up on the back of it, right? So you're going to choose whichever position works better for you, and then step back into this variation of a downward facing dog. So you hold onto the chair however you can. Your feet are approximately underneath your hips here. Try to keep a long spine. Just breathe into it and just be there with whatever amount of stretch is available right now. All right, now those of you who feel like your hamstrings are open enough, you might be able to turn your chair around and really try the same thing from the other position here. So then the hands go to the front two corners of the chair seat and you step back and you have a little bit, it's a little bit more similar to a down dog in that the spine is actually descending a little bit from the tailbone down. Now, for tighter hamstrings, I request, please keep your knees bent and try to press back through the sit bones. If you have tighter hamstrings, this is what happens. If you try to straighten your legs too quickly, you end up in a position like this, right? You're going to end up with the back rounded, and it's not going to serve you well. So bend your knees, send your sit bones back. So you get a nice stretch at the undersides of the arms, in the shoulders, and there you go, there's your down dog. All right, now from here, lift up a little bit, shift the weight over to your left foot, lift your right leg, oh, there's a wall back there, and then bring your foot forward. Ankle goes right underneath the front corner of the chair seat, and your knee touches the front of the chair seat. Now, we're going to take this into a crescent lunge position, so you can either spin the back foot to the floor, so you come into a classic warrior one shape, or you can be up on the ball of the foot, whatever feels more comfortable to you. So find the position for the back foot, but try to keep your front knee touching the chair as you take your arms up. Do your best to keep your back leg as straight as it'll go. Pull your belly in and up, and your arms go up. And the hands come back to the chair seat. And you step back to downward facing dog. And then we'll go the other way. Weight onto the right foot, lift your left leg, bring your left foot forward. So your ankle's pretty much right underneath the front edge of your chair seat. And then situate your back foot in the best way that works for you. Either heel up or foot down at an angle. So you choose, and arms come up. Couple of breaths. And hands back to the chair seat. All right, step back to a downward facing dog, bending your knees. Then step toward the chair. And come on up to standing. Okay, so now let's move the chair out of the way for a moment. We're going to come down onto the floor, come onto your hands and your knees. So if you would like to have a blanket, go ahead and situate a blanket to pad your knees so you'll be more comfortable on the floor. And we'll move through a few rounds of cat and cow here. Now settle down into your chest a little bit. Inhale, look forward, lift your sitting bones. And exhale and round into the back. Now I'd like to offer an alternative to this. Some of the folks that I work with have issues with the wrists are uncomfortable, or the knees can't bear weight in a comfortable way, which is why we work with a chair. So in order to be able to perform cat and cow without having to be on your hands and your knees, you could sit on the front edge of your chair, hands on your knees, pull the chest forward, roll the shoulders back. And then as you exhale, you let your back round. See how my arms are staying straight here? I'm not bending my arms and leaning forward. I'm letting my arms straighten and I'm pushing my back toward the back of the chair. And then coming forward and rolling the shoulders back, but trying to bring the chest forward. So this moves back, this moves forward. And then just the opposite. So it's an alternative way to practice your cat and cow. All right? And for those of you who are on the floor, finishing your next round of cat and cow, inhaling, looking up, exhaling to round, and back to neutral. Now we're going to take a puppy pose. Most of you can do this, so walk your hands forward, come up onto your fingertips, move the sitting bones back towards your heels, keep the shoulder heads lifted, moving your seat back. Inhale, lift up and walk both hands over to your right. Keep about a shoulder's distance between your hands. So don't let your hands come together too close because it might just kind of handcuff you around the neck and the shoulders. Keep the hands wide and move the sit bones back so you deepen the stretch down into your left side as your hands are over to the right. Couple of rounds of breath. And then inhale, lift up. Take your hands the opposite direction. Both hands off to the left, about a shoulder distance between. It's about a 45-degree angle off with the arms. But then move the sit bones straight back. Don't let your hips go out to the side. Move straight back with the sit bones toward the heels, shoulder heads lifted. Nice stretch in the side body as you sit back. I don't know about you, but boy, this feels pretty good. All right, so spending all this time at home, it's nice to have some options to stretch things out a little bit. And inhale, lift yourself up and walk your hands back to center. Okay, so we're going to come down to the floor now. So if you would like to come to a partial plank pose, you walk your hands forward, pick up your feet, pull your knees forward, pull your hands back, and you can stay there for a moment. Really exercise your lower abdominals. If you have issues with your hands, coming up onto your fists gives your wrists a little bit more space, but if your hands still won't have it, then you'll just skip this and come all the way down to your belly. All right, and then lowering down, we'll come right into a Sphinx position. So you walk your arms forward until your elbows are underneath the shoulders. Settle down into your chest. And then pull back isometrically with the elbows and the hands to bring the chest forward. Pull your lower abdomen in and up and engage your abdominals as you're pulling back in the forearms and trying to move the sternum forward and almost tip it upright a little bit. Okay, now from here, we're going to come into a nice big twist. So take your left arm forward, roll onto your left side. Take your right leg forward, your left leg back. And then you'll open yourself up into a nice big twist. If your head will come to the floor, you can do that. If not, you can take your blanket, roll it up and put it under your head. And if it feels like this pose is just not quite in the repertoire right now, don't worry about it. You'll hang out with us and we'll catch up. All right, and then you come back and go the other way. So left arm out, roll onto the side, and then open up your twist in the opposite direction, letting your head come to the floor. So try to keep your legs long. You can point and flex through your feet. You keep the outer leg nice and long, the side body nice and long, shoulder heads back. And just really give yourself a nice big twisting stretch here. All right, good stuff. Coming back to your belly, slide your hands alongside of the chest, press up to table pose, and we'll find our way up to standing. So you can take a down dog if you have that in your repertoire. Walk your hands back slowly towards your feet. Bring your hands up to your knees, and come on up to standing. Okay, great. Now we got the spine warmed up, we got the shoulders warmed up, we got the legs warmed up a little bit. Come back to the chair. So grabbing your chair, put it at the top of the mat. Make sure your chair is fully on the mat so that it doesn't scoot forward, hence the whole sticky mat idea. Keeps it from sliding. So let's come back to a downward facing dog. Hands on the front two corners of the chair, stepping back. Pressing back through the sit bones. And again, you know yourself best, so either keeping the knees bent if you have tighter hamstrings, or straightening the legs if your legs are ready for that. And once again, shift the weight to the left leg, lift the right leg behind you, and sweep your foot forward so your ankle's pretty much right underneath the edge of the seat. Adjust your back foot accordingly, and come on back up to a crescent lunge. Now we're going to make this crescent lunge a twisted prayer pose. So hands to prayer position, tip forward. Can you take your elbow and hook it outside of your leg? So with my right leg forward, my left elbow comes outside of the knee as I come into this twisted position. If my back foot is spun down to the floor, then I might just come and put my elbow on the chair seat and not try to go as deeply into the twist, because I don't want to cause any undue twisting or discomfort into the back leg, right? All right, hands back to the chair. Step back to a downward dog, readjust yourself. And inhale, lift your left leg. Bring it forward into a lunge position, ankle kind of right underneath the front edge of the chair seat. Again, make sure you've got lateral distance between your front and back foot. Adjust your back foot as necessary. Either spin it down or keep the heel lifted depending on what your feet will allow. And arms up. So coming back to a crescent lunge. Bring your hands to prayer, tip yourself forward. If you can, you're going to take your right elbow and hook it outside the leg. For some of us, that's not possible. So maybe you bring your elbow to the chair, or you just bring your forearm on the chair and you turn. Now, if the hands don't come together, you can have your left hand on your hip and just turn yourself open from here. Both hands to the front of the chair seat, and step back to downward facing dog. Now we're going to take a forward bend. So you're going to just walk your hands back. Have your knees bent, walk your hands back. For your forward fold, you can have your hands up on your shins or your ankles if your hamstrings are on the tighter side. You can also put a pair of blocks down and have your hands supported on blocks if that's true for you. If your hands come comfortably to the floor, then that's totally fine as well. See how it is. And then bending your knees, slide your hands back up to your knees and get yourself into a little more of a neutral spine position here, and then go ahead and come on up to standing. Great, let's inhale, take the arms up. And exhale, arms back to your sides. Great. Let's approach the chair again. Hands to the front two corners of the chair seat. Go ahead and step yourself back to downward facing dog. And we're going to shift forward to come into a plank position. So lifting the shoulders, shift yourself forward. You may end up needing to walk your toes back just a little bit. If you're coming up onto the ball of the foot, pull back on the chair seat, pull forward with your feet, and pull your lower abdomen in and up as you engage your core. Be here for a few breaths. All right, and then lift your hips and press back to downward facing dog. Again, readjust your feet so that the soles of your feet can be planted on the floor. Okay, so lift your right leg up behind you. On your exhale, bring it forward and through. Come back into a lunge position, and we're going to set ourselves up for warrior two and side angle stretch. So the back heel spins down to the floor. Bring your right elbow onto your thigh and turn your chest forward to look toward me. Take your top arm up alongside of the ear, and if this doesn't work, arm can go straight up, but pull the shoulder heads back, the sides of the neck back, and then wherever you take this arm is best for you right now. It can be, again, straight up into more like a wingspan. It can be alongside of the ear with the palm facing down, or your hand could be on your hip, rolling your shoulder head back. Perfectly fine, any way you look at it. Now from here, keep your legs here, come on up, take your arms out into a warrior two position. Pull the belly in and up, try to keep your knee touching the chair. Back hand to your back thigh, turn your front palm up, tip your arm up and give yourself a lean back. Come on up, hands to the chair, and step back, downward facing dog. And other side. So lifting your left leg, bring it forward, come on into a lunge. I'm going to switch legs here just so that I can continue to see, look at the camera and see you. Same thing, other side. Spin the back heel down, bring your left elbow onto your leg, turn your chest forward, take your top arm up alongside of the ear or in whatever position works best for you for side angle stretch. So imagine that you're trying to lean your upper body back a little bit. You're not letting your upper body come forward too much. But also in the act of leaning the upper body back, don't let your hips, especially this back thigh and pelvis, move forward in the process, right? So you're trying to keep it as if it's all touching a wall back behind you. And then bring it up to warrior two. Arms out parallel to the floor. You can look out over your front fingertips. Drop your back hand to the back leg, turn your front palm up, tip the front arm up and see if there's a little room for leaning back. Roll the shoulder heads back. And come on up, hands to the chair seat, and step back again to a downward facing dog. All right, so now walking toward the chair, we're going to shift the chair around so we can see, do something a little different with it. So turning the chair to face you, we're going to sit on the chair. And we'll do a little seated eye of the needle pose. So shifting the right ankle on top of the left knee. Take your hands to the front of your shin and you're sitting toward the front edge of your chair. Pull back on your shin. Pull your shoulder heads back and sit as tall as you can. Just see how it feels to be here. And then see if you can come forward a bit. So keep your spine as long as you can and only come as far forward as it feels appropriate to you. As soon as you start to feel your shoulders starting to lift, that means you're probably rounding into your mid and upper back in a way that's not necessarily going to serve you very well. So try to keep your spine fairly long as you come forward, and hopefully you're feeling a decent amount of stretch in the outer hip, up into the hip area, piriformis, etc. So you're coming forward. Make sure your grounded foot is flat on the floor and you're not up on the toe or anything crazy like that. And then come on back up. Set the right foot down, cross over with the left ankle. Take your hands to the front of the shin. Pull back on the shin, pull the shoulder heads back. Keep the toes really active on the crossed leg, and then come forward again with a long spine, just breathing. And come on back up. Okay, uncross your legs. Now, if you'll get your strap and have your blocks nearby as well. So you'll take your strap, and if you don't have a strap, you've got a belt, or you've got maybe a sash for a bathrobe, a necktie, you know, not that a lot of us wear neckties these days, but hey, some of us do. So whatever you got, take it around the instep of your right foot, left leg bent, right? Roll the shoulder heads back and press your foot forward and down against the strap. Pull up in your lower belly and try to make your spine as tall as you can. And remember, we're always using mountain pose as a reference point. So from your tailbone to the top of your head, nice and tall. All right, now I'm going to take both straps into just the right hand. You can hold onto your chair with your left hand and then open your right leg out to the right. Bring it back to center. Switch the straps into your other hand. Hold on to the chair with your right hand and then lift your shoulder heads and turn yourself to your right. So you try to turn your torso perpendicular to the leg. Keep the sitting bones even on the chair. Press down into the strap with your foot. And come on back to center. Great, let's go ahead and switch feet. So take your left foot into the strap, right foot on the floor, lift the left leg. And again, sit tall. You're still at the front edge of your seat, pressing your foot into the strap and down. Roll the shoulders back, sit tall. Just the act of pressing down against the strap as your hands are pulling it up is going to give you some nice work in the hamstrings there. Now, if you have a tendency to hyperextend, you always want to keep just a slight bend in the knee. So make sure you're not locking your knee joint down. All right, and both straps into just the left hand. Hold on to the chair seat with your right hand. Open your left leg out to the left. So sitting tall. Make sure you're trying to maintain your best shoulder alignment when you're doing these exercises with the legs, because it's really easy to kind of lose it and the shoulder ends up coming forward and the elbow lifts. Pull the elbow down, pull the shoulder blade back and in toward the spine. And then bringing the leg back to center. Switch the straps into your right hand. Sit tall, roll the shoulders back, and then turn yourself torso 90 degrees. And again, sit tall in your torso. Press down into the strap with your foot. It's up to you if you want more stretch in your IT band and outer hip. Maybe you bring that leg up a little higher. All right, and release. We'll step out of the strap. Set your strap down, and then grab a hold of your blocks. So if you have two blocks, great. If you have one block, then we'll just use the block underneath your foot and we'll modify the position of the hands. So take a block out in front of you. You're going to put your right heel on that block. So this is going to be working with the hamstrings here. So as you press the left foot down into the floor, press your right heel down against the block. And then again, always maintaining that sense of height in the spine. Pull back a little bit in the hip creases and then bring your torso forward as you start to work in the hamstrings. You can rest your forearms on the opposite thigh. If the floor feels like it's fairly close to you and you don't come into a deep rounding in the mid and upper back in the position here, maybe your fingertips can come down to the floor. So you work to the place where it feels like you can at the best place for your hamstrings, and which may, you want to make sure that your back is in support of the stretch that you're doing. In other words, keeping your spine long. Now, if you have a free block, take it into your left hand, reach out and forward. Lengthen the left side body, and then see if you can reach over, crossing toward the right leg. You can keep the arm up or reach it down and get a deeper stretch into the side and into the hamstrings as you come forward toward the leg. There's only so many of you that are going to be doing this in a way that feels comfortable. Now, if possible, the other block is going to come back down flat on the floor. The left hand's going to go on top. You can be on the left fingertips or flat on the palm. And we're going to see about twisting. Woo! Press down into the block with your right foot and twist yourself as you turn and look to the side, turning toward the leg. And let's release and come on back up. Other side, left foot out in front, heel on the block. All right, so make your right foot strong as you press it down into the floor. So again, make sure you don't have your foot far back or too far forward, or you're at the foot on a weird angle of the foot. Press into the heel and come forward. So working with your hamstring stretch is perfectly fine to be up here. And again, if you're a little more open in the hamstrings and you can bring the fingertips down either to the floor or to a set of blocks, feel free to pause this and go get what you need, right? So we're not in any hurry here. All right, now I'm going to take the block into my right hand, reach out and forward, and then start to cross over to my leg on the left. Reaching out and forward first to get a deep stretch in my right side body. And then maybe even bringing it down toward the floor. And then we're going to come on back up. Take this block in the right hand on its flattest setting. Again, you can come flat to the block or up onto the fingertips. If that doesn't work, you always have the option. You got 3 settings on your blocks. Maybe it goes up to the highest one. Right, so you choose, and then turn yourself to look to the left as you take your arm up. Make sure your sitting bones are staying even, pressing into your chair that you're sitting on as you twist. All right, and then we'll release. Great, so come on back up. Let's go ahead and take these blocks out of the way. And we'll move the chair. Now, for those of you who would like to practice triangle pose, you always have the option to put your hand on the chair. You take one foot up until your toes are about in line with the front foot of the chair, and take your wide stance with your legs. Trying to turn the hips a little bit more down than forward toward me, so you lengthen the right side of the body. And then you can just simply open up into a triangle pose here. For those of you who want a little bit more challenge, you could bring your forearm down to your chair, if that's comfortable enough for you. You can always put your elbow up on a block on that chair as well and be somewhere in between if the hamstrings simply won't have it. So we got a big stretch here for the hamstrings and the inner thigh. Now let's go ahead and come on up and we'll switch sides. We'll scoot this chair down here. And then the left foot goes forward, the right foot goes back. Hand is on the chair seat to start. I'm going to straighten the front leg, pull back in the left hip crease, and then turn it open. Again, you feel free to work where it's best for you. Hips are trying to turn down, torso is trying to turn open. You could bring yourself down onto the forearm if that works for you. If not, you can have your elbow elevated up on a block. So finding your expression of triangle pose today. And then we'll come on up. Okay, great. Let's parallel the feet. Step the feet in. Move the chair out of the way. Okay. So come on down onto your back on your mat. Now let's just do a little windshield wiping. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So feet fairly wide, arms out in cactus or T position, and then drop both knees over to your right. Doing this with your breath is exceptionally good right now because when you coordinate the breath and the movement, it's very soothing to the nervous system. So as you inhale, bring the knees up. As you exhale, drop the knees over. As you inhale, bring the knees up. As you exhale, drop the knees over. All right, so keeping the knees over to the right, take your right foot and rest it outside of your left knee. Slide your left arm up and alongside of your ear and really lengthen out the left side body, keeping the shoulder down and deepening your stretch into your side. And then release. Bring the arms back to their neutral T position. Uncross the legs and with the feet wide, drop both knees over to your left. Left foot comes to rest outside of the right knee. And then slide the right arm up alongside of your head. Try to keep your right shoulder grounded on the floor. All right, and then bring yourself back to center. Uncross your feet. We're going to take a bridge pose if you have that in your repertoire. So bringing the arms to the floor alongside of you. Set your feet so that your heels are about at your hip distance width. Your feet are parallel. From here, you're going to look straight up at the ceiling. Please don't try to look at the screen while this is going on. Just press into your feet. Lift your hips straight up. Thighs and shins are parallel. And then if you can, scoot each shoulder in toward the midline. Try not to scoot your shoulders towards your heels. And then you can just press the back of your forearms into the floor with the palms turned up. If that works for you better, or if you can clasp your hands, that's fine, but don't try to force it. A lot of you have pretty broad shoulders, so there's no reason to try to narrow yourself in a way that's going to mess with your alignment. And so you just hang out in your bridge for a few breaths. Great. And then lower the hips down. Scoot your shoulders out from underneath you. Widen your feet, let your knees drop in to touch for a moment, and let your hands rest on your belly. So just having a little rest here in constructive rest position. Now we're going to get ready for our final relaxation. So if you'll roll to your side, use your hands to press yourself up to a seat. So I've gotten some props here just so I can demonstrate this. What do you have at home? Hopefully you can replicate this with something. So I'm taking a block to use this to kind of create a ramp with my bolster here. I'm setting up the pose Supta Baddha Konasana, which is reclined bound angle pose. Big blanket. And I'm going to roll the blanket so that I have lengthwise a decent roll. And then I'm going to sit with my sacrum up against this bolster, and I'm going to lay back. Now, you can take the blanket and either slide the blanket underneath your knees and just simply lay back on your bolster. Try to scoot your shoulder heads in. And just let yourself be in a really lovely, it's like the best lounge chair ever. Or for Supta Baddha Konasana, bring the soles of the feet together. Blanket on top of the feet, and then pull the edge of the blanket in and underneath you, letting your legs be completely supported with the blanket, and then reposition the shoulder blades a little bit more underneath you. So again, this is a position that is so great just soothe the systems, soothe the hormones, right? So we're trying to get everything to just calm down. And any restorative poses that you do are really great for helping to kind of calm the nervous system down. And couldn't we all use a little bit of that right now? So once you find yourself in your position, please feel free to stay as long as you like. For the purpose of trying not to make this video too long, I will go ahead and start to bring this session to a close. So I'm deeply grateful to all of you for coming to your mat and for working with your props and doing your practice at home. So helpful and so vitally needed right now that we all have tools and resources to help us move energy through the physical vehicle while all this is going on. So thank you all so much. Stay safe, be well. Om Shanti, Namaste.